in that I was here shortly after the school opened. The board established a dividing line in the city of San Diego at Boundary Street and 32nd Street going north and south. And everything east of that was going to Hoover. Everything west of that went to San Diego High. And as a result of that, a lot of friends went in different directions. And in some respect, actually, I guess, kind of fueled the competitive spirits of the two schools, which was, for many years here, just outstanding. You know, it was everything that we were involved with. It put us in the community. It was somewhat in competition with San Diego High. There used to be dances on Friday afternoon up in that were always a delightful event, and I think rather probably unusual looking back that sort of thing happen on a high school campus. Well, there was no no jitterbug, no jazz, strictly couple dancing, foxtrot.
A melting pot. I mean, it was middle class. There was no highbrows. I mean, everybody was kind of on equal terms with everybody else. I like kind of watching football and being part of the ambiance of the whole football game thing. That was the most fun, really.
Hoover points with pride to its notable graduates, leading the way the greatest hitter in the history of baseball, Ted Williams. He remembers fondly his high school days at Hoover.
You know, the reason I came to Hoover was because I thought I could make the team, because it was a smaller high school in San Diego High at that time. There was only 2 high schools in San Diego then. I was always glad I did, because my high school days were certainly enjoyable and will live forever with me, of course.
Many of you may not know that the greatest woman golfer in the world, Mickey Wright, is also a Cardinal.
He was kind of like an older brother type guy. He knew everybody and everybody knew him. And everybody liked him and he liked everybody. You know?
But he was so good looking. Oh my.
I know when Ted Williams would come into town, and they didn't want him to know that he was here. And all those years that we went to Uncle Bookie's, Ted Williams would stay with Bookie, and Bookie never told. And Bob Breitbart never told. And Ted Williams could be here for 2 or 3 days before he had a function to go to. And I think for Bob Breitbart to be such a true friend to Ted Williams, and his wishes Bob, would do, they had a very dear friendship, and that speaks well for the man.
Came out of his office, and he walked over to me, and he reached his hand out and said, "Hal Mitrovich, Bob Breitbart." And I went, "Bob, you don't have to introduce yourself." But that was the kind of guy he was. He was an absolutely, he and Bookie, gee, many Christmas. I don't know what I did right, Coach, to just get near those guys. But I thought, what a thing. I've told many people that the humility of, some guys, hey, how you doing, whatever. He introduced himself, and I thought, God, that was really very, very touching.
There isn't anyone who has given more to this school in terms of recognition, pride, obviously financial support for Hoover High School. Just a great man. Hoover would not be the same school today without the contributions of Bob Breitbart.
My first day at high school,
Tell me about
it was so exciting to walk up those steps, go down those big wide halls, because Woodrow Wilson was so much smaller. And I just felt so grown up, and I was looking forward to that all summer long. A lot of people would remember the tunnel that went under El Cajon Boulevard, and that was the only way I could get to school. The culmination of 3 years of high school and the class of 1932 were the ones that got the book started. We just all lined up in the hall, and of course the girls all had skirts on. I think they let the girls go up first. And there was the book up there, and you signed your name and you walked back down. The war years it didn't seem to affect us that much. And of course all the boys, they could hardly wait until they graduated so they could go off to war.
Captain Hartley always saluted me and would call me to attention. I'd have to stand up and salute him back. And Paul was just such a joker. He joked all the time. You never knew quite what he was going to come up with.
Okay, Paul Hartley.
He's not here. He's not here.
Stand up, Paul.
Paul was a recruiter among everything else. We probably ended up as a second mentor, meaning that Bookie was the first, but probably the first 25 mentors were all recruited by Paul.
But you know, there's the kind of guy that asks you for stuff, but he doesn't do a lot himself, and then there's the Paul Hartley. And he got that mentor thing up and running.
The reason I'm still here is because I told myself I'll never let down Captain Paul. So I'm going to carry on whatever it is we have to do to make sure that the foundation and Hoover High School are still quality that we expect it to be.
We have a special tribute to Captain Hartley. From now on,
Thank you very much. You've heard it all. The meeting is adjourned, but I love you all and keep on working.
The San Diego Hoover game in about 1947, when we played in Balboa Stadium before 27,000 people.
Wow, 27,000 people. Did you win the game?
Oh no, we never beat San Diego.
No.
We would go up there. Of course, the field ran a different way.
Tell me about that a little bit, which way it ran, explain that.
It ran north-south. When that flag went up, you better stop and stand still, or you got a detention. That's all there was to it. And of course, there were the dress rules. I was amused the other day when they said they were going to have a 40s dress day. Pretty easy for the guys because all they wore were Levi's and a white T-shirt, or a good white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. You know, that was pretty much it. And the girls were restricted to skirts and a blouse. You could wear a sweater, but you had to have a blouse under it too. That was absolute. And no red skirts because it might excite the boys.
He is Mr. Hoover. He was a teacher. He taught you in the law, and he taught history. Taught, I believe I'm right, 27 years and never gave a referral.
Wow.
To walk into his room at any time, and you could see, everything was under control. Winning wasn't everything to him. Making men out of them was. He's one in a million. He ranks right up there with Bookie and Paul.
Monroe, wanna bet? I'll bet you even money. Double or nothing. Bookie Clark.
He contracted polio when he was 8, and he was the first handicapped student that went full-time at Woodrow Wilson. The story is that when he was at Woodrow Wilson, he started making a book on some of the high school games. Not money exchange, but just, and that's how he got his name, and his buddies at Wilson started calling him Bookie.
Because I really can't tell these people that you owe me 5,684 milkshakes.
When I got ready to leave, I don't believe the conversation we were having. Here, I was talking to this girl for 15 minutes about prenatal care.
I mean, he'd have the bat or the tennis team. If the tennis team needed a ride somewhere, he had this big Cadillac. He could probably fit about 12 people in it, and they'd all pile in and they'd go.
I could just still see Bookie coming in on those crutches. And I hear kids complain, and I think, God, if you look around, you can always see someone a little bit worse off than you are and still trying. And I think that's why he clicked so close with my daughter, because they both had all the odds against them, and they never used the word can't. And that's what people, not only kids, but people need to say, I can.
I was so pleased when I had heard that they had dedicated the local middle school in his honor, in his name, Monroe Clark Middle School, and that the school mascot is the Trojans. It's what a tribute to a great man.
And, for me, he left a legacy that is just second to none, at least during the time that we were here. He was a giver, he was fun, he was compassionate, but he would also get on you when you weren't out there. If the teams weren't playing the way that they should, he reminded you of that. And, he opened his heart and his home to us.
Bookie was a saint. I can't think of anyone I've ever heard say an unkind word about him. Anyone in all the years I knew him. And I must have known him for over 40 years.
On behalf of the Hoover High student body, I'd like to declare Monroe Bookie Clark the greatest man who ever lived and the best friend that Hoover High has ever had. Bookie Clark is Hoover High.
Well, I'm telling you, it takes two to lift that little guy out of that wheelchair. He is heavy. Well, it just dawned on me later that we were lifting a 200-pound heart when we were lifting that man. That if they are really looking for someone to emulate, they should try to be like Bookie Clark. There was a man who always looked for the best in people and found it. He had thousands of friends because he was always willing to give of himself. This is a quote from the great Ted Williams himself. And Bookie has earned a place in the Hall of Fame, right there on the top rung with Ted Williams.
I will always be a Cardinal, forever and ever and ever. Even when I'm 100 years old, I'm going to come back. I might not wear this dress.
At the end of our senior year, when we got to have a ditch day, when we just sort of took off and went to the beach or whatever, and we felt like we were finally free, whatever struck our fancy, and so it was kind of fun, and stretch our wings a little bit and feel like we were really seniors and going out into the big world,
And I'm telling you, the Friday night football games, I have to say, those were the most charging for me, because afterwards, the stands, whether we won or lost, we would stand for the alma mater and sing our hearts out. And now when I sing it, the tears come down. But in those days, of course, I was just a kid.
The big thing all the guys were worried about was the district attorney was one of the chaperones. So there was no way we could sneak in anything of libation to spike the punches with.
And later on, I taught with Dr. Mary Scott, rest her soul, who had been was an attorney and had been a nun. Very similar. Little short lady, taught right across the hallway in the English Social Studies building, and she was a pistol. She had that Hoover spirit. She'll work with you and give her, but don't cross the line. It was the kids who were unabashed about just digging the whole spirit thing and the teams and what was going on, and if it was a debate team or whatever. Of course, my all-time favorite person is Mrs. Simonides, but she kind of typifies, and she wasn't a Hoover groover, but she was and is, that typifies coming back, working Saturdays, tutoring.
The very first nominating convention was my sophomore year, and I had been chosen or elected by my homeroom to represent us at the nominating convention. And as I recall, it lasted for 2 days, and I think I probably learned more about government in those 2 days than I did in any of the other academic classes that I took.
At that time, Crawford was being built our senior year, and Patrick Henry wasn't built yet. So everyone at Hoover was from 70th to Texas and then all across 8. So that was a big school. We had 3 lunches. And of course, then when Hoover played San Diego High in any sport, the athletes wouldn't talk to anybody that Friday. Whether football, basketball, baseball, track, they all ate at one end of the cafeteria together and always had honey on the table for energy and didn't talk. And if you were dating any of them, you didn't go out on Thursday night. And it was serious stuff. But it was a lot of fun. Going to the tower was such a privilege, and you didn't go until you were a senior and you were graduating. And we all had new dresses, and it was like the utopia that you're going to graduate because you've been able to go up to the tower and sign the big books. And that was very, very important.
Probably the biggest social party I ever attended in my life. All of my lifelong friends are still from Hoover High School. So I guess the best memories were between classes, see how many people you could talk to before you get to the next class. Yeah, it's too bad we can't have Cat's Corner back here again. All the hallways on the first floor emptied into this one big area, and then everybody went in a different direction.
What place in your heart does Hoover hold?
Oh, pretty deep.
Take your time.
Yeah, it's pretty deep. You got me with that one.
That's okay. That's okay.
When we started at Hoover High School, we started, I believe, the first soccer team. Hoover did not have a soccer team, and a few of us, Hispanic students, there wasn't that many of us, decided to start a soccer team. Well, it was it was an incredible challenge starting a soccer team, because soccer back then in 1964, 65, basically was not popular, and there was a lot of challenges, not only from the rest of the students, but a lot of challenges from the faculty, because everybody kept saying, why soccer? What is that? They didn't think it was going to be any kind of a sport that will ever develop. I remember they used to call us, I believe, Los Amigos.
And again, it's the people that I remember. It's not so much the place. It's that spirit that was here when we were all, again, trying to figure our way out in life. It was right during the time when the Vietnam War and all those things that were going on. And, right when you're in that age where you could be, next on that draft list, it was a profound time. And it really made you stop and think about what you held dear and what it meant to be able to go out and, like many of our, our former students had to go out and give their lives and, to protect our country. So
the senior patio, that was my favorite place at Hoover, was the senior patio. The buildings actually surrounded the senior patio, and I'm sure that when it was first built, it was absolutely beautiful. Shrubbery all around, the old buildings surrounded it. And when I got here, there was no restriction. It was no longer the senior patio. That was just the name. Our class, the class of 76, was able to walk up in there in December of 75 and sign the book. And then it was gone forever.
But we did have a wonderful tower night before they tore it down. And there was a huge crowd that attended Hoover that night.
The whole reason for the, for building a new school and demolishing the old school was because of the new earthquake standards.
And I remember coming here to watch that first day, and the big wrecking ball didn't work. I think he had to get 3 different ones larger to knock it down.
I cried.
It kind of, in a way, typified what I see in a lot of the Hoover mentality. You know, maybe I don't look, you know, maybe it looks like I need to be placed, but it's going to be tough because I'm tougher than I look.
And that building, that auditorium held the whole school. Can you imagine that? The whole school. So they could have an assembly with everyone. Sad. Yeah. Yeah, it almost makes me choke up now. It was a bad day.
To a lot of us, the tower was the image of Hoover High School. And Hoover is a wonderful school, but it will never be the same without the tower. If they could put the tower again, even if it's not identically the same, put the tower, and I'd like to see all of us that graduated from this wonderful school, I'd like to see a reunion of us coming back and having a celebration.
You know, the atmosphere was more laid back. You know, the 70s, and you know, kids started growing their hair longer, and you know, the faculty really gave us a lot of leeway. You know, we were in charge of making student IDs and you know, just organizing activities. And Hoover at that time was one of the most racially balanced schools in the county. So we didn't have any busing going on either in or out of the school. So I think that's really what made Hoover, that during those days, really unique, you know, in that sense. Everybody got along. A lot of people don't realize that the class of 78 was the last class to actually occupy the old buildings before they were demolished and moving into the new buildings. And I remember the day when we came to class one day in the old building, and the teacher said, "Everybody grab your desk. We're taking to the new buildings." So we lifted up our desks and walked them over to these new buildings. You know, the trees were just barely sprouting. I was walking in today, and I saw the size of some of the trees here, and it's kind of, you know, shocking to see how much they've grown. Prior to then, it was a senior tradition to go up to the tower and sign the tower book. So we were the only sophomores that ever signed the senior tower book also.
Oh man, it was a disco era, man. It was disco, it was Donna Summer, and I remember just hovering, you know, okay, they're gonna play Always and Forever soon. It's coming, and I'm gonna get her. And comes on, and it was always a race to get to the girl, and I never quite made it, man. You've probably seen the pictures, man.
Tell me.
You've probably seen the pictures with the fro. You know, I had the fro. I had
How big was
the
it?
semi. Let's see, about like so. You know, the semi. Michael Jackson. I hadn't played a down of organized football before I got here. I didn't start a game until I was a senior, and 4 years later, I'm being drafted in the NFL. So when you think about what happened here for me, I get a lot of confidence and a lot of people who supported me and a lot of people who told me I could do it.
There is a long-standing tradition of excellence in baseball at Hoover. It started with Ted Williams in the 30s, then carried over to current Padre Eddie Williams.
You know, growing up in the Adams Avenue area, you know, we go down and play baseball, play basketball, play football, flag football, whatever we did, it was everybody from Hoover. My favorite, Bob Warner, my high school coach, who taught me a lot about life. Because, you know, back in the day, I mean, I had no guidance, and he was my guidance guy.
Hoover Spirit is number one. Hoover!
Cardinals!
Go Big Red!
I really enjoy running for Hoover. I don't know that I'd run for any other high school.
When you talk about the Cardinals rifle team, you're talking excellence. Year in and year out, Hoover is the team to beat, and it's no different this year. Under the leadership of Sergeant Major Gordon Petro.
Hello, baby. Yeah, this is the Big Bopper speaking. And a pretty face and a ponytail hanging down. Work if I can't wait till it's time to go home. Hey, it's a car wash today.
It's hard to smile when you fall, when you just giving your all. Get up and start again. You say you want to go far, want to reach that star. Don't stop until the end. Be a winner, be a winner. That's what you are. Be a winner, be a winner. That's what you are. If you want to reach that goal, you want to grab hold of that gold, in yourself you must believe. You believe in you, you won't deceive you. It's your own vision you see, and be a winner.
Cô quý phụ huynh, để chúng con đạt được kết quả ngày hôm nay. Và một lần nữa,
Sentimos todos los graduados en lo que es el día más importante en nuestras vidas.
that now I can accomplish anything that I want in life.
And 10 years from now, I plan to be a doctor.
Living long, loving life, and hoping to be a better man than I was for the past 4 years.
Party hard, yeah.
Jim Morgans was known as instant offense. He was a super hitter.
I remember there were the ladies that used to work in the tennis office. They used to go to almost every single basketball game. You could look up in the balcony, you could see them there, and things like that. I think those are some things that stick on my mind.
Homecoming '97, and a lady coming back from class of 40 something with her cheerleading uniform on, and her doing the dance, okay, the song dance that they did back in the day, and everybody's like, how old is she? She was 60 something, I don't know, still you fit her uniform, and everybody was so excited about that. So Hoover is my second home. The teachers that are still here, they are my adopted parents, they're my sisters and brothers, and the class of 1997 came up with Who Ride. I just have to say that so we know. Our football team, we played Marion in the homecoming game that year, and we won, and one of the boys threw up, I don't know what he was trying to say, Hoover or something, and somebody said, oh, we rode on Marion, and it said, Who Ride? And it stuck, and everybody wants to take credit for that. 1997, we came up with that.
Say 2006 CIF finals was probably the most intense time of my high school career, aside from finals and things like that. The previous night there's no sleeping. There's absolutely no sleeping. You're going to be on TV. Everybody's going to be watching. It's a big thing. It's Hoover. Everybody knows who's playing against, and
being the Hoover Cardinal was really just awesome. There's nothing like that big red bird. Awesome. I liked dancing inside the gym during halftime and battling the other mascots. It's always fun being the mascot because you can do whatever you want because you're in a suit. It's all about Who Ride Pride. I love bringing up the H. I love doing the cheer, I almost got in trouble one time because they thought I was flicking people off. I'm like, no, it's Who Ride. Who Ride. That's what's up. I remember one of the boys had a mohawk, and he had Who and Ride on his side. And I was like, that is so cool. We have pride. We love our school. And then Dr. Podorsky, he is just a funny fella. I got to paint his face one time during homecoming, and he wore it the whole time to show school spirit. And any principal who does that, it's pretty cool. Hands down, I got mad respect for you. So, especially since I got to paint it. People know your name. The principal knows your name. Not because you're bad, but they just know you. And I think it was more of a family there at Hoover than anything.
Hoover was then, and continues to be the cornerstone of this community.
Like, we graduated in 1952, and we're still thinking of those things that we did here at school, and those things we got away with at doing here at school. But we still have that pride and that spirit about this school. And I believe that the students that I've seen here have that same desire.
If the world wants to know how to get along, they should come to Hoover. Because if you stand in our quad and you watch our kids, or watch our kids at a ball game, or watch our kids wherever they're gathered, they're getting along. And every school should envy us. You know, they may not, but if they don't, it's because they don't know about us.
And this is a new Hoover, regardless of what you heard or whatever you may think or about Hoover.
The students are brighter, the students are more disciplined, the students are really reaching for goals that now they know from my classes and the class before me, they're attainable.
To this day, I still hear Coach Petrovich. His voice still is there, and it's probably never going away.
What is he telling you now?
You got to do it the right way. It's got to get done the right way. You know, everything that I am now was born here. This is a pretty special place for me. Yeah, it's a pretty special place. It all got started here.
What if you want a taste of the world, you come here. Because that's where you will meet people, real people who have real stories, who have real struggles, and then they all come together for one unique purpose, and we succeed. That's Hoover. I just want to show people that, you know, Hoover, we're legit, and we're doing a lot of big things. We're going to take over the world, so.
Fight for the Cardinals.
I love Hoover. Yay, Cardinals.
I love Hoover and go Cardinals.
I love Hoover.
I love Hoover. Go Hockerville, Hoover, Cardinals.
Cardinals never give up.
Go Cards.
Hooride! I love Hoover and go Cardinals.
I love Hoover High School. Go Cards.
I love Hoover, class of '79.
I love Hoover, HOORYDE, who ride, who ride.